everyone, welcome to another episode from Ampro Engineering. In this episode, we're going to take this Dodge van body made famous on the Tamiya Lunchbox and make a street-going version of it. The original front end right here has this brush guard and these large tubular bumpers, which looks fantastic on the monster truck. Now, the reason why Tamiya created this particular geometry is because down here, this notch actually fits around the front of the CW01 chassis. Those of you who have watched my Buyer's Guide series are aware that the Lunchbox was not the first car to use that chassis. It was in fact the Mitsubishi Pajero, which came out a few years earlier. Now this is a great front end, but my project is going to require a street version of the Dodge van. So this front end is not going to do. What I have instead developed is this front end. Now this is about as close to a road-going standard front end that you're going to find for this particular Dodge van body. However, this will not be compatible with the Lunchbox. I say that because it fits the body with some modification, but will not fit the chassis because, again, it does not have this notch here for the front lip of the chassis to fit. We do have operational headlights and turn signals, and we'll get to those in a little bit, but first we're going to prep the body to install the front end. Because I wanted to make sure that we had a perfectly clear grille, I wasn't able to put the mounting locations where they would normally go. These actually fit around these bosses under here. So to get them to fit, we have to trim off this rib. Just not the whole, this is broken, but just trim off a little bit so that these two retaining areas will drop in around those. To do this, I'm going to use my flush cutters, my X-Acto knife or scalpel, and then this other X-Acto knife that has a flat blade. And remember that all of these tools are remarkably sharp and incredibly dangerous, so please be very careful. What we're going to do is simply trim away a tiny little notch like that. Well, that went flying, so probably should wear your glasses too while you're doing this. Okay, that one stayed put. And now we'll take the X-Acto knife and just clean up this jagged edge. Just like that. Now that we have some clearance around those posts, you'll note that the grille wants to drop into place, but it still can't. On the fenders, we have these little extension pieces here, which is just part of the fender. On this particular body, the original mounts are broken. Normally you'd have a protrusion right here. Well, that's all got to come off. This bumper usually would wrap around at quite a substantial curve around the body like that, and of course that's simply not possible, so you have to cut this whole area here out and take it up just a tad. To do this, you might be tempted to use the flush cutters, but you really want to score the area first, very, very lightly. Just score it a few times, and once you've done that, you can take the flush cutters and don't try and cut the whole thing off at once. You're going to want to start and do little nips like this. And then again, it goes flying off into oblivion. And we'll do the same on the other side. This notch here was what I got by simply following the original recessed area here, but I think we've got to take it up a little bit higher. Before you do that, you want to do a test fit. So it looks like we have to shave off probably around 2 more millimeters. And this corner is rounded on the bumper, so make sure that you keep that rounded on the body. My rounded corner is a little rough, but I'll use a round file to clean it. And that looks like we're spot on. So now we'll just get my rounded file out and slowly clean up that little area. The notch on the body was cleaned up nicely. And now you can tell that, you can get a shot here, this front panel on the headlight door should be pretty much parallel to this lip on the body. Now, of course, different bodies are going to vary. Maybe your bike got a little bit of damage, but it should be pretty much parallel. On the inside, you see there's a little flange right here, and I would apply a little bit of shoe glue or hot glue on this, and same with these little flanges here. You can put a large washer and an M3 nut here, but as you can tell, the large washer is going to come into contact with the grill, so you may need to notch it. And remember, do not force anything on this grill. This is the ultra detail plastic, and you will crack it. This is designed for detail, not for durability. Now that the grill's been mounted, I'm going to sand it down with some 400 grit sandpaper. Being careful that we don't sand too much in this area here. The bumper is going to be plenty durable, but you don't want to get too carried away on the grill because you don't want to take away in the detail. And then we'll finish that up with some 800 grit, at which point we can shoot it with some primer. After that sanding, the grill is going to really have a nice silky smooth feel. And again with this, you don't want to put that much paint on it because you don't want to fill up any of the little grill openings here. Just do a couple passes of a light primer, whatever color you'd like. I'm going to go with black because I'm then going to coat this in a chrome paint from Duplicolor. Along with the grill and the rear bumper, you also are going to have the headlight and turn signal set. Now, the headlights are pretty simple. It's just one large piece of translucent acrylic, and the turn signals are the exact same way. My recommendation is to paint the backs of these in a silver color so that there isn't any kind of light bleed, and then the actual lens itself can be painted clear for the headlights and then orange for the turn signals. I will snip off the signals now. Shoot these orange. Just a little close up here, the front bumper got coated with a couple of coats of a filler primer, and now we're going to go ahead and do a little more color sanding. I've done some, and you can see right there we still have some more imperfections here. You can see it, but you really can't feel it. Make sure to blow it off thoroughly, and then we'll spray it down with some chrome paint. I went ahead and masked these inner grills because usually in the photographs they are black, but again, this is all dependent on how you want to paint your grill. All right, and we have now painted the bumper in chrome. Weather outside really wasn't good enough to do this. It was a little too humid, so the chrome didn't come out as good as it usually does, but this is going to be a weathered part on this next project, so I think it came out fine. You can also pull off the masking tape to reveal that black color that we wanted. We'll do all the same steps to the rear bumper, and now let's prep those headlights. Before the front and the rear bumper are installed, I unfortunately for this project have to make it look a lot worse. So you can see the van that it's going on. Well, this beautiful shiny chrome grille just isn't going to work, so we have to age this a little bit and then slap it on the van, and then we're all set. The grille has been installed and so have the lights, and here we are. I know we've missed a few steps, but what you don't know watching this is that this video has been going on for about 8 months. So this is where we're at anyway. The front end has been installed. Headlights and turn signal lights are pushed in from the rear as I showed earlier with a little bit of model glue holding them in place. This is not discolored. I've actually just given it kind of a rusty look, like the lens is cracked and there's water that's filled up in there. The back bumper is also installed. The rear bumper goes on pretty easily. It's just a little bit of hot glue on those two posts in the back. You can see it there. And the same with the front end. There's just glue around the front body posts and a little bit in the corners of the bumpers. It's not an elegant way to install this, but for the application that I've designed it for, it was by far the most robust and safest way to do it. I have to say again that this front end is not compatible with the CW01 chassis. That means if you have a standard monster truck lunchbox and you want this front end on your lunchbox, it will not work. The front of the chassis will protrude right here, so please understand that. This front end and rear bumper set will be available on MyMiniFactory, which is a print it yourself company that I've been working with. I have a number of products there already, like the Bronco interior, but please note that just because you can print it yourself doesn't mean that you should. If you have a very basic FDM printer, this front end is not going to come out particularly well at all. This is perhaps more inclined to be printed on a resin-based printer, or what I've been printing these on is a polyjet like what Shapeways has, and this is how you get these detailed. You can see it with the headlights on, the turn signal flashing there, but I think they show pretty well. Again, it's important that you do back these in silver and then a coating of black to prevent light bleed. And of course, we've got the side markers, rear markers, and tail lights. See there, that's just the parking light, and that is the parking light with the flasher on. Now, I know the big question is, what's the chassis on this van? Don't worry, we will get to that. It will be made available when a video is being published, and I'm working on the video for this chassis as we speak. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. This front end has been something that I've always wanted on the Lunchbox. I've always wanted a very scaled Dodge van, and I think now we finally hit it. You'll also see some information on the side view mirrors and the wipers, which are a little bit too big on this van, but we're working on it. These are all Ampro parts, including the wheels on this van. There's a particular offset necessary to allow the axles to fit properly under the body. And I've tried to think this out as well as I possibly could. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.